Alright, top 5 tips for Gauntlet. Tip number 1. Overlevel. The acts are pretty much the hardest part of Gauntlet, other than like Uber bosses, obviously. But most people aren't going to do Uber bosses. Most people are just going to be looking to survive to like 90, 95. Acts, by far the most dangerous. So overlevel. I'll go over the good zones to farm in here. Act 1, we got the ledge. It's pretty safe, not super safe. No zone is super safe for Gauntlet, but ledge, you can definitely farm out a few levels here. However many you farm is up to you. You can farm till the XP penalty really hits you hard. If you want to play super safe, you can keep farming for gear, whatever. And merveil caverns. Do make sure you're res capped, at least cold, for merveil caverns. Act 2. Western forest. Northern forest is good too, but it's kind of dangerous because you have beasts in there, you have rituals. But if you can farm it, then it's good. Act 3. City of Sarn and docks. I'd say at this point is when you should probably be strong enough to do the league mechanic without it just killing you a lot of the time. I would be very wary of the league mechanic, but maybe start to farm it in Act 3, get your town going, and it can give you some gear boosts. Act 4, aqueducts, dried lake, and caoms stronghold are all good to farm. They're all relatively safe. Act 5 got Chamber of Innocence. This is a big checkmark point. You can farm this for a while. Farm level 50 plus. Act 6, we got Southern Forest. This zone's pretty good. 7, Northern Forest. I probably wouldn't bother. I don't know. It's not... These zones aren't super good. It's okay. If you want to overlevel there, you can. If you're not just overleveled from playing. Act 8, the quay. Definitely an underrated zone. And Harbour Bridge. Harbour Bridge is another big checkpoint. I'd farm a lot of levels there. Act 9. Foothills. None of the zones are super safe in Act 9. And I don't recommend farming Betrayal unless you're really overgeared. Yeah, you're really just aiming to get in maps and ASAP because maps are easier than acts. In Act 10, Merc Lab is your safe spot. So the map mods kick in at area level 68, which will be Merc Lab. So you're really aiming to get the Merc Lab. And then you're going to do a big farm for Merc Lab if you're scared of Katava. You're going to really round out your gear in there. And then tip 2. Overgearing. You should be res capped by the end of Act 1. You can craft resistances at level 12 for 1 transmute each on your bench. You should be crafting flat damage, either fire damage or lightning damage, which you can get in Solaris Temple for fire or Lunaris Temple for lightning. In Act 3, you should craft that on your weapons. It'll give you a big damage boost if you don't have good weapons already. Obviously, that's if you're a caster. If you're melee, you're going to do the rustic sash recipe for a melee weapon. Probably a 2-handed axe. Weapon and a magic, a rare... Oh, sorry. So you put your axe or whatever weapon in the vendor. You get a magic or a rare belt. I believe unique actually works too, but if you get a... Doubt you'll get a unique rustic belt. And a whetstone. This will give you a good % phys roll, and then you can craft a suffix on. If you have a regal, you can also augment in regal. You really need to stay on top of upgrading your weapons as melee. Melee, it's very important you're upgrading your weapon like every act, the new base. You probably want to aim for 400 to 500 life per act, depending on how safe you want to be and depending on the build you're playing. Use the good farming spots that I said above. to get your gear. But like I said, probably only do it in like Act 3 plus. Before then, it's probably not worth. Check Streamer's VODs for bosses. So Act bosses will be changing. So you're going to want to check out Streamer's VOD to see what's happening in there and be ready. Don't go in blind. Unless that sounds fun to you, I guess. But if you're trying to not die, don't go in blind. Know the danger zones. Be ready. This list is just going to be for the monsters in the zone. All bosses in Gauntlet should be approached with caution, especially with the changes that are coming. These are just zones that are dangerous, based mostly on the monsters and the layout of the zone. So in Act 1, got the coast. You're just going to run right to the waypoint and get into Tidal Island. Try not getting hit. Really. There's no reason to kill anything in coast. You're just going to get owned. You have no gear at this point. They do a lot of damage. You're dead. You can farm some gear in Tidal Island. You definitely want to have a piece of gear equipped in like every slot before you go to Mudflats. Get coral rings, get a chain belt, everything you can. Makes it way easier. Wear like an armor chest or evasion. Just it's much better, trust me. Act 2. Northern Forest, it's got rituals and beasts in it. It's pretty dangerous. It's good pack size for farming if you are somehow strong enough to do it. But kind of risky, so it's dangerous. Act 3, Lunaris Temple. You got the titty bitches in there. Imperial Gardens. You got porcupines to look out for. The lab zone, the lab trial in this is actually kind of dangerous too if you get hit a lot. Act 4, the Duresso zones and Belly of the Beast are very dangerous. And then Ascent is super dangerous. So many bad monsters in there and it has really high pack size. Act 5, Control Blocks, very, very dangerous as well. You should get shock immune somehow, whether it's Tempest Shield or Purity of Elements. You really want to be shock immune here. Act 6, we got Mudflats. The monsters, they seem kind of not dangerous, but they actually are dangerous. If they shoot their artillery in the air and it hits you, it does a lot of damage. And then Krui Fortress is the same thing. It has the same type of monsters. And then Brine King Reef, very dangerous. So the golem guys will slam you back to the beach. I guess technically that zone is a beach, but you know. Act 7, Malagara's Sanctum, got some nasty bleed monsters in there. Maybe try and get a bleed flask by this point. And Causeway, got a lot of chaos damage in there. Act 8, Eye Gardens, got porcupines in here. Dangerous if you don't have any evasion. If you're like Jug or something, big danger. Solaris and Lunaris Temple. Still titty bitches. Blood Aqueduct for Act 9. BA is actually dangerous. I know a lot of people think it's a good farming spot, but in Gauntlet it's actually not. You want to get out of the zone ASAP. And then Belly of the Beast and Rotting Core. Then Act 10, all zones are pretty okay, honestly. All zones are pretty okay. Nothing super dangerous. And then something you're going to want to do for Acts 6 through 10 is really pay attention to your chaos res. Click the extra chaos res on the tree here. If you're over here, click these for chaos res. Really, really big. Get amethyst rings. I'm probably going to get 2 amethyst rings before I'm even in Act 6. You really want to get amethyst rings. Pick a strong and tanky leveling build. Like I said, leveling is going to be the hardest part of this gauntlet for people who just want to hit 90 or 95. Once you get the maps, it really is smooth sailing. You want to go rolling magma into armor brand / cremation, or rolling magma into archmage firestorm, depending if you're doing archmage or just regular caster of some sort. If you don't like rolling magma, I guess you can do like Orb of Storm, Stormblast Mine. It's definitely worse, but if you really are like bad at aiming rolling magma, or you don't like it or whatever, Orb of Storm, Stormblast Mine should still get the job done. And then for melee, Splitting Steel into Sunder. Finally, last but definitely not least, do not roll any, and yes, I mean any damage mods. Anything that makes you weaker should not be on your map. The number one thing people do in this game is overroll their maps with like 6 damage modifiers and wonder why they're getting one shot. It's because your build can't handle those damage modifiers. This is why you die so much in the normal game. You are overrolling your maps. This is not a level race or an Atlas completion race for you. This is a marathon to level 90 or 95. Use alterations and augments on your map. Do not alchemy every map unless you need a completion. And then when you need the completion, do not do one with the damage mod. Be picky with the maps you run. Know what mods your build is weak to. This is going to be your killer. You get to the smooth sailing and maps and you roll a damage mod. Don't do it.